So, my friends, on the one hand, the Jews just had the Judgment Day, the day of the trial, and right after that followed the Wrath Day. That is, the Judgment Day ended in Israel on the day of wrath, when the Arabs attacked Israel. When the Arab and Jewish religions come together in one unit, in one fist, it will be exactly on this territory. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque will be the center of pilgrimage, the center of attention. A new world will come from here. Here it will be drawn. This is a prognosis. Let's see how soon it will come true. Today is Friday the 13th. This day, which was expected, already expected, from afar, for some time, was expected to be called the blackest day, that is, the saddest and most dangerous day. And Israel canceled all the rules of war, but only Israel. The special services, not only Israel, prepared for this day, but also all other countries, London, the United States of America. There, the special forces were brought to combat readiness. Just like France. France these days, and especially Friday the 13th, celebrates with fires and big clashes with the police. The Western Special Services are actively preparing for possible protests and speeches that may take place today, and also during prayers in the mosque. The excitement is associated with the new Arab-Israeli war, which began on October 7th, and of course many began to celebrate this day. That is, to celebrate in the media. And the Western press began to accelerate this date, that is, October 7th, began to accelerate it as Putin's birthday. And really, what was it on Putin's birthday? No one believes in random coincidences. Therefore, foreign media began to say that it was not for nothing that Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, mentioning that Vladimir Putin celebrated his birthday on this day, and even Vladimir Zelensky did not miss the opportunity and assured the world that the Jews are suffering because of the Russians who poisoned the Palestinians in Tel Aviv. The whole world began to think about one thing: that this conflict began with a strange indulgence of Israel and with a strange participation from the Russians. The actions of Hamas were very well done. Very well done. I do not take violence, because violence is, so to speak, something else. But as for the practice of the blow, how did it go? Yes, it went under the guidance of high-ranking specialists. The situation in the Middle East is becoming more and more serious every day. And Israel continues to bomb. And it is already going to Lebanon and Iran in that direction. And Hamas is preparing for mass demonstrations on the western shore of the Jordan. Palestinian leaders say that these demonstrations will have a global character, since the Jews decided to organize the genocide of the brotherly people of the Arabs. Well, indeed, Semites are there, Semites are here. Brotherly peoples. Why is there such an attitude inside? Who heats and ignites the fire? This is also very important. And the most serious excitement was expected today in Jerusalem, where the famous Mosque of Al-Aqsa is located. The bloody war of Judgment Day is burning with terrible force around this mosque. And the special services of the whole world need to prepare for the unexpected development of events. Because these events on this day, marked the Arabs as a day of rage. A day of rage, a world day of jihad. Hamas called for global mobilization. The Israelis also called for mobilization. And Hamas called for the harm done to the Jews. What is wrong? Tell me. What happened in the Middle East, in our Middle East, that suddenly they, the Jews, and the Arabs, began to beat each other? Obviously not Hamas. Officially, it was Hamas who started the action. But Hamas warned the Jews for a long time. And the Jews knew about it for a long time. Because Hamas spoke about it, he said it. And the Jews, whose fly will not crawl through the cordon, suddenly opened the borders on this very day. There was a music festival. They escaped from there. I don't know how many, 4,000 people were there. They don't tell us how many died. 280. That was the first number of the dead. I believe that almost all 4,000 died. There was nowhere to escape from there. Suddenly this bombing began, and the attack of the Arabs began. The well-trained Arabs were attacked by small Israeli kibbutzes. Friends, I don't believe that it was for no reason. The Israelis opened their borders. High-ranking professionals who have intelligence at the highest professional level. Suddenly, they found themselves on the verge of bankruptcy. And what the Arabs did, of course, they were brutal. But I think that the Israeli government, some military government, let's clarify it this way. It was beneficial for the whole of Israel to understand what the actions of the Arabs would be next. That is, to intimidate their own population. This is why, probably, the borders were open. So treacherously open the borders. Today, in Geneva, there were protests against Israel, for the protection of Palestine, for the freedom of Palestine. Allah Akbar. They shouted about it on the square, in front of the Organization of Poor Nations. Friends, when the world is on fire, it becomes scary for everyone. It's not just somewhere in Israel, where military actions are taking place. These actions can burn any country. To be honest, I don't know how many Jews live in Switzerland, but about 2 million Jews live in New York, and there have already been protests. The security measures for the preservation and expectation of potential attacks are being strengthened. It seems to me that there are much more Jews living in New York. Moreover, the Jewish top, the Levites, live there. But how they are considered, we don't know how many, who considers themselves Jews in this case or not. Perhaps the Levites do not consider themselves Jews. Here, you see, they have an internal count. It was announced that 2 million Jews live in New York. Well, approximately, plus or minus. At this time, a number of educational institutions were closed in New York. The Columbia University was closed on the Day of Rage. At least one Jewish preschool institution in New York, Queens, decided to close on Friday due to the potential danger of provocations. The head of the Has-Nasa district in the United States strengthened the security of the district in yeshiva and religious institutions in New York State. At present, there is no data on any active threats in New York or in New York State itself. In Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, the Columbia District strengthened the safety of residents as well as Jewish and Muslim places. The cult of Massachusetts strengthened the vigilance. The police and various districts also strengthened the police cordons and patrols around schools and synagogues. The measures were also strengthened in Agaya. The Jewish Security Alliance recommended to its Jewish communities that access to the building, if the building is mostly Jewish, leave one entrance and block the other entrances and exits so that one entrance and exit is controlled and no strangers are allowed there at this time. Do not accept unexpected parcels that may come. Check the perimeter of the buildings and inform all suspicious law enforcement agencies. Check the cameras and additional systems in the working area. Check the state of the network of security. In Canada, Jewish families decided not to send their children to school that day. Police security was increased in Toronto, and Jewish institutions and communities in Montreal were transferred to a state of increased readiness. So, the Jewish hospital of the former Montreal profile postponed the reception in case of increased demand for medical care. Many people were scared today. Many people did not know what to expect, what would happen. Terrorists win when they cause fear in many people. And of course, the scope of this potential terrorist threat was huge today, on Friday the 13th. And in London, 2 schools were also closed due to the possibility of anti-Semitic speeches. In a number of countries, there were large speeches. In the capital of Iran, Tehran, according to journalists, the protesters waved flags of Iran, Palestine, and Hezbollah. In general, long live America and long live Israel. This is how the protesters chanted. In the capital of Yemen, Pakistan, and Islamabad, where Islamic activists stepped on the flags of the United States and Israel, they showed their disrespect to these countries. Thousands of Muslims came to the demonstration in Kuala Lumpur, shouted, "Crush the Zionists," and burned 2 figures with Israeli flags. In France, there was a complete ban on Palestinian protests. Because France is such a country, it will be very difficult to stop all the speeches which can be made, especially by young people. There are a lot of Arab young people in France, and they are very active. One woman named Inna Vernikova, she was a member of the council in New York, was arrested for the fact that the photo showed that she had a gun, which she carried to the Palestinian protest. Inna Vernikova has a license to carry a weapon since September, but it is prohibited in the United States to bring it to the protests. On the call of Hamas, on the Day of Rage, there were fierce attacks with knives in China and France. That's what happened. China also joined the protests. China and Russia are one. Russia and China have the same policy, and if Russia supports the Hamas movement, if Russia supports the Taliban, that is, Afghanistan, Pakistan, in that direction, then you understand that this means that everything is united. China also supports. Both the Taliban and Hamas support China. Therefore, you see, they had attacks with knives in China. And I recently told you that in China, to buy knives, you need a special card. That is, they take your photo. Fingerprints are taken, in my opinion, even fingers. In any case, face recognition is actively done. That is, digital face recognition when buying knives in China. This is important. Here in France, in the city of Arras, a Chechen who was under police surveillance, with the cries of Allah Akbar, killed Dominique Bernard, a teacher who taught French, and wounded 2 more employees of the educational institution. And here, the educational institution is incomprehensible, right? And why did the Chechen do it? I don't understand. Probably somehow, really, the excitement, such fear and indignation, anger, is acting. Or do they think that it is necessary to kill someone on this day? Because it is a day of rage, a day of anger. An Israeli embassy employee was attacked in Beijing and stabbed with a knife. He was hospitalized. There are many such cases today in countries around the world when they try to attack those who are on the Israeli side. That is, almost many countries in the world responded with protests in support of Palestine. That is, despite the fact that Palestine attacked Israel. You see, in the world, it is all considered differently. Probably, of course, the Israeli government. It assumes that in the world it will not see such strangeness. When the Israeli government, the Israeli military, let Hamas literally to its territory. Why did this happen? This is a big strangeness for everyone. That's why they looked into this trick. I would also consider it a big strangeness, a big trick from the side of the Israeli military to show their Israelis how dangerous the Arabs can be. But they already knew it. But here, friends, in order to now start a full-fledged deportation from Israel, that is, an evacuation, so to speak, in a kinder, softer word, the Jews would not have gone anywhere before. They really, with blood and sweat, mined these houses for themselves, settled somewhere, tried to make a living, and they were always inspired that this is your inhabited country. They drew a huge number of years, which was not the case in this story. But now the Jews really believe in their ancient history, which was not on this territory. But the Jews believe. And what else do they have to do when the state tells them about it? And that this is the Mosque of Al-Aqsa. They are also there and think that this is their place of worship. A place of worship. Yes, of course, friends. Is it the fault of ordinary Jews when they are inspired by it? Thousands of years before our era. What 1,000 years? Our civilization is only about 200 years old. Before us, there was another civilization with other cults, cults of culture, cults of faith. There was an absolutely different civilization. There was not everything that we were drawn. Not Christianity, not ancient Islam, not Jewish culture. You know, this is a big question about religion, but the fact that the whole story is drawn for both Jews and Arabs, for Russians, for Americans, everything is drawn. There was nothing from the story that children are being taught. But when these children are inspired during school, they think it's true. Because children believe, they are inclined to believe that adults are telling them the pure truth at this age, and children believe and perceive it as a dogma. And it is already very difficult to pull out of this consciousness the lie that they are inspired by. So friends, on the one hand, the Jews just had a day of trial, a trial day, and right after that followed a day of rage. That is, the day of trial ended in Israel on the day of rage when the Arabs attacked Israel. Do you understand that this is arranged? That this is an agreement both on the one hand and on the other? And where is it seen that Russia would suddenly go against Israel? Where is it seen? We have always seen hats. We have seen many great figures of our Kremlin, culture, government. Everyone is wearing yarmulkes. And how will they go against Israel? No way. Yes, they are preparing now. Now, Russia is at the head of a big project.
We had such a project, Stalin and Hitler.
Two friends who started a war all over the world, and then they got together with each other. Well, that's it. It was friends were more than friends. Well, that's another question, friends. I have an explanation for this, but I want to tell you that the same project is being implemented today. Russia, which stood up for Israel. Russia, which organized Israel. Today they say that Israel organized Hitler. Perhaps, but these are different information. They are earlier, because what I know is that the Jewish state created and organized Stalin in 1947, and in 1948 it approved the League of Nations, which was at that time in Geneva. It approved the Israeli state on a foreign territory in Palestine. Do you understand? And now the Jews think that they have lived here all their lives. And with many such a big story, by the way, with many nationalities, peoples, such a story. They are driven from place to place, and in 100 years they will say that your roots were here. So that they fight for this place, and then they will drive them out again, just like the Jews are now, and they will drive them out. There will be something else. What they are doing on the territory of Israel for the future, it will be something else. There will be some kind of special center, maybe worship, but the war will now be big. Not for Al-Aqsa, not for the Mosque of Al-Aqsa. No, not for that, but for something else. That maybe it will be a new religion, which the Jews and the Arabs create together. They are creating it today, but so far this is not visible. In fact, they are creating one single religion, where the Jews and the Arabs will unite. And most likely it is possible. Of course, Palestine will serve as an example, but maybe Turkey will play a big role here. Turkey. So far, the actions of Turkey are not visible, but it will come soon, because today, the Turkish government has all possible options to stop the war, to make peace with the Arabs and the Jews. But in fact, there is an agreement here. First, Turkey will wait for the whole gas sector to be bombed. To make it harder, to expel 2 million Arabs or Palestinians from there. Who lives there? Jews live there too. To expel 2 million. And then they will build something special there, a special cultural center. When the Arab and Jewish religions will unite, it will be on this territory. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque will be the center of pilgrimage, the center of attention. A new world will come from here. It will be drawn here. It is a forecast. We will see how soon it will come true. I think it will take several years, about 5 years, and we will see the result. But for now, people will die. The whole Arab East will suffer. The population will be wiped out. The state will be zeroed in on these territories. I must say, Egypt, there are a lot of our soldiers. They settled there a long time ago. They bought a lot of land in Egypt. These are Russian soldiers. As for Iran, it is a pro-Russian country. As for Syria, it is also a Russian country. Lebanon, Libya. These are all Russian, under the umbrella, and always with the help of Russia. Russia always invested its money there. And why? There is a meaning to it. It is not just like that. These are the areas of meaning that need to be discussed. But the world is not ready to reveal these secrets to the people. We will discuss this topic gradually. Come to me. I have a booth. Sometimes I talk about such things. It is not always possible to put everything on air. You can talk about it on my personal channels. Contact me if you need help. Sometimes you can help even in the most desperate moment. I am Tanya Karatsuba Seidberkan. Today is Friday, 13th, 2023.